All right, so to start this coaching session for this week, and we just covered what's going on in real time with this coronavirus, but I used this graphic for a long time, but I used it in a recent webinar I did on the micros with another broker. We did a joint event last week, and I never created the order of these faces. They were made in clip art for me with just these expressions on these faces. But they end up becoming sequential that I think a lot of people are going to connect to. And they did in this webinar, and I know a lot of you guys weren't at this webinar, so I want to go over it in a kind of different way with this group, that we all go through this progression of what we feel like, right? If you had snapshots of your face, you probably look like this. And I think what's important is, let me bring a pen on over to this chart. What's important is to talk about the progression of what does it mean to go through these expressions, and how could you create some solutions to avoid some of it. But you have to admit that you have these moments, and I think there's going to be like, yep, that's me kind of reactions to you guys as we go through it. When we get into this business, we kind of have this expression of sad and not understanding things, right? And we all listen, the people who get in this business, especially the people in this group, have a hunger and a desire to succeed. I know that from talking to almost everybody that joins the Edge. There's a desire to succeed. There's been success in other industries, and there's a challenge that you're not going to shy away from. But you get frustrated when you get into a business and you know you're missing something. You don't have all the pieces. You become frustrated, sad in a way, right? And so when you start to figure things out, you begin to take you begin to create the second guess, right? When you don't know everything. And generally, you go a long time in this business without finally realizing the stuff that's important. This business is hard after you know the stuff that's important, let alone all the nonsense that you thought was important, right? That's impossible. It's hard enough when you know all the right paths or tools. But when you get into not even understanding it yet, but when you get into thinking you understand it and start making decisions of when to trade at this price, and the price is coming down to your entry, okay? You think you got to figure it out, but you begin to look like number two here. You begin to get scared when price comes to your price, comes to your order, is a better way to say it. When it gets into your area, when it's time to play ball, right? There's that nervousness. Now, if you're on the on deck circle, you're nervous as a baseball player, but you're not crapping your pants or you're not going to be able to perform. So you don't have this face. But yet, many people do, especially early on, and maybe even now throughout your career. You become fearful. So, how do we address fear? The easiest way to address fear is to avoid the task. That's the path of least resistance for most, not all, but most. If you could avoid the task, avoid the confrontation, you've eliminated the fear. That's not always the right decision. It's like running away from your problems. And so, what do? You pull the order, you miss the trade on purpose because you had this kind of look to yourself. You're afraid, you're fearful. What if I made a mistake and I could buy it lower? What if it's a loser? You get nervous. And when you're nervous and fearful, you miss the trade. And then when you miss the trades that would have been losers, and this happens, you get this smug kind of that look like, see, I told you so. Good job. You pat yourself on the back. Good job pulling that trade. That would have been a loser. And so you start to validate how you address the fear when you miss some trades that would have been losers. But then you start to realize, I'm missing a lot of good trades. I'm missing a lot of trades that would have been winners. Or I'm getting out of winners too soon because I'm nervous and fearful. Fear isn't just before the trade. It could be during the trade. It often is during the trade. So you make decisions to eliminate the fear by just getting out of the damn thing. Take the winner. But you begin to go from, it was the right decision to son of a gun, it's not. This sucks. Why am I missing a lot of winners? That gets old quick, doesn't it? To miss winners? Missing a winner because of fear, really don't have an explanation of it. You missed the winner, not because you didn't see it, not because you weren't at your desk, that aggravates you, but you're too afraid to take the trade. You pulled it. Because it was easier not potentially failing. It's easier not potentially failing than failing. But when you miss enough winners, you get this look. Then you take a trade that you're supposed to take, and it's a loser. Let me just run through this little bit again. You miss a winner, you're pissed. You miss a winner, you're pissed. You take the third trade, and you're supposed to take it, and it's a loser. 3 trades. You didn't take this one, you didn't take this one, 2 winners. You took this one, loser. So you should be 2 winners and a loser and up money, but you're 0-1, down money. Big difference. Now you're like this. Now you get into that, get this money back. This is BS. Being angry, you get mad. And you run through this emotion where you then take a trade or two or a whopper or bigger size than you're supposed to, because now you're just trading the money. Now, it has nothing to do with the strategy, the tools, the progression, the process. It only has to do with your own miss the winner, took the loser, 3 trades. I missed the 2 winners and take the loser. You got to be kidding me. So every trade that might come after that, might be the next day, might be in an hour, might be in 10 seconds, all has to do with trading the emotion, which trades the money, and nothing to do with the strategy anymore. And therefore, you start looking like number 5 here. You're angry, and that's how you're trading. You might not look exactly like that in the mirror, but boy, that's how you feel. And that's a pretty awful place to be, because you're not down money yet, but you're getting close to being down a lot. Because even if you make money when you trade like this, when you make money, you go through a lot of fear and a lot of anger and a lot of smugness, all this stuff, just to make a little bit of money. I put a little S up there with a line through it. A little bit of money. You go through a lot of nonsense, but you're setting yourself up when you trade this way to looking like this, where you're no longer rational, objective. You are that. You might even look like that in the mirror, where you have no sense of control. You've either added the loser because you're mad because you finally took the trade that, you kept missing. It was the loser. Or you took a trade that was outside your strategy altogether. It's a disaster. You were bullish and now you're short. Now you're short. You're short. You're short. And now it's the uptrend day and I'm short all the way up. I won't do it again. Let me this be the last trade. I won't do it again. All right. It's got to come down. How high could this thing go? So you have no control and you have that look to yourself. So this is the progression that a lot of people go through. You don't know what you're doing. You think you figured it out. So you get into, you're feeling fearful before a trade, during a trade. You get smug when you miss the losers. You get super mad and start looking like that when you're missing the winners, and that adds up. You get really pissed when you have some losers that maybe you shouldn't have taken, or you miss the winners. And you take revenge trades, and then you have no control over the situation because you're adding to a loser. You just took a whopper. It took you 5 days to make X amount of dollars. It took you 1 trade to lose it all. I can guarantee you everybody's been through this, whether you add or not. Everybody takes a big loser from time to time, but everybody goes through these stages of emotion. In trading, we just go through them more often than an accountant might, or even a lawyer might. Even a doctor might. A doctor, if they're an emergency room doctor, they go through more of a series of emotions than maybe other doctors. But traders every day have emotion. The price moves. Faster it moves, the more emotions there tends to be. So, what I had said preparing for that webinar last week is something I had said in the trading room. That's something I want to repeat today. And that is, it's not about being right, it's about being objective. People pay to listen to me about not how much I could be right, but how much I could be objective. Because that's going to allow you to be right more often and not wrong for long. That's what people pay for, objectivity. They don't want some crazy guy that's just talking up an opinion he has because maybe he's got a large position in it and the objectivity is gone. You don't want a guy that's just talking about, hey, I think the room is bullish, so I'm just going to talk bullishness today. Or because I think the room is bullish, I'm going to show them that I know that they're all wrong. I care less. That's not being objective. None of these faces in here are objective when you look or feel like that. When you have the inner or outer expressions like that, you're not objective. You're not in a good mental disposition to make good, healthy, objective decisions. If you're a doctor, they count on you for objectivity in a very subjective environment. As a professional trader, counting on yourself to make objective decisions in a very subjective, biased environment. You got a position on. Of course, you got a bias. You're long. You're looking for any and everything to tell you that you're right and the market's going to go up. But if you weren't long, would you be short? If you weren't long, would you get long? Would you want to be long? Right? So all those things are important to run through your head when you're long or when you're short to keep yourself objective. Not scared, not fearful, not smug, not angry, not very angry, and not just frightened to death. Because all of these paint a picture on avoiding or keeping us away from consistency. You know, how many times you guys have a stair step of progress, bam, only to see the next step is way down here. This is no way to go up and down stairs. You got to go up and down the same way. You can't take little steps up and big steps down. And that's what you got to avoid. So you got to be consistent going up in order to make sure you got some steps down that don't feel like the edge of a cliff. Any questions? I thought this was a very important thing to talk about the way it came off last week's webinar I did. And it was, last week's webinar was just on micros. But I thought that when you're allowed to, the micros are allowing people to trade multiple contracts to get them more of a feel with money, but not too much money at play, to run through the gamut of these emotions and be able to handle them better. Because until you go through them, the proper training, you're not going to be able to handle it better and get away from being paralyzed with fear. But you want your progression to be like this: step up, and then when you trade like crap, step down. It takes a lot of steps to go back to where you started, P&L wise. And that's fine if that happens, but not one step down, because that sucks. And that's going to make you go through this progression of emotions. So just like the market, it rallies up. You don't want it to shoot right back down. Maybe retrace a little bit, and then maybe you head back up. Step up, step back off, and rally back up. You're never going to be confident until you're consistent. And you're not going to be consistent until you're trading what you see and not what you think. Your thinking is done in sessions like these, in review sessions that you might do with some trading partners or buddies. That's where your thinking happens. Journaling is where your thinking happens. Once the game starts, it's reactionary time. Once that guy's in a windup, come on, you got to react or you ain't going to swing the bat fast enough. So you have to rely on your training, which is no longer thinking when it comes time to swing. It's see the ball, hit the ball. And you have to start trading what you see and not what you think. That's the old saying, trade what you see, not what you think. Trade what you see, not what you think. Because once you start thinking, you start overthinking, and you get yourself into those expressions pretty damn quick. We're going to do more going forward, and you guys watching this on recording might already see it. Listen to these weekly coaching sessions. Make sure you're watching the Puke Tool series that we have over the last 2 months. We're going to be doing more of those, and we're going to talk more about that, helping you calm down and get confident to get consistent. You're not going to get confident until you get consistent. Sometimes you're going to get consistent until you get confident with the right tools, with the right fire, and the ready, aim, fire approach to get rid of this crap. This isn't crap, but if you're constantly going through those expressions, it becomes pretty overwhelming to trade when you're thinking or feeling like that. How are you going to see what's important? And you have to put yourself in a position to say you screwed up, move on, admit it. Don't um, defend. Got to admit that you're wrong. When you defend, you look like this, and you stay like that.